How is it going, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to answer a question that I get over and over and over. If you haven't cheated by now, what is that topic? Will Camaro Time ever own an electric car? So let's get to it. Now, to be honest, it's going to be a two-part response, a short answer and a long answer. So please stick around and listen to my thought process and everything that I'm going to discuss, because it could possibly also affect you if you're trying to decide if you want one or you may be thinking about one. Short answer is nope, nope, nope. And that pretty much covers that. So let's get on with the longer answer. Now, the longer answer is going to consist of purely my opinion, right? You can call it speculation, whatever you want, but this is speaking for me and me only. You know, even my wife will concur on what I'm going to say because we think alike about this. So let's get on with it, and I will explain the reasons why I personally will never own an electric vehicle. Now, up front, I want to say, you know, there's many different makers of electric vehicles right now, and there's hybrids too. You have BMW, you have Mercedes, you have Porsche, you have Mustang with the new Mustang Mach-E, and a lot of people are in arms over that because, oh, it's not a Mustang, it's a sport utility vehicle. No, it's not. Let's face it, guys and gals of the Mustang world, it is a Mustang. It is their electric Mustang.
Well, that's a really important point because the Mach-E is a new family member. We're always going to make the Mustang car that everybody loves, and this doesn't replace that.
And they did the same thing with it that they did with the Charger. They made it 4 doors so that people who have multiple people in the family, you know, kiddies and so on, can haul them to the soccer fields and all that stuff in their Mustang while being electric. And Corvette's coming out with one, and ever since they moved Al Oppenheiser and announced that GM wasn't going to, well, they were going to be putting the 7th generation Camaro on hold, I have been flying the banner that the next Camaro will be electric. Now, is that going to be the only choices? Of course not. You know, nobody's going to be that stupid. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. Ford has a heritage with their V8 Mustangs, their V6 Mustangs, and now their EcoBoost, you know, which are really, really good cars. Chevy's going to have their V8 Camaros, their V6 Camaros, you know, and they've tried to delve into the 4-cylinder market, which I don't think they're doing too good at it. Same car, just 4-cylinder. You know, this car is too heavy for a 4-cylinder. It just really is. That's like putting a 4-banger in a Challenger. It just is not going to work. And with all that said, I am basing my opinions, my ideas on current market, current situations around the country and everything, right? In other words, and we'll get more into this when we talk about infrastructure and all that stuff, but I'm basing it on charging stations, current prices of the vehicles, you know, all this stuff that will have to be considered when you buy one of these cars. So let's get to those reasons. Now, first and foremost, the one thing that I cannot believe people do is buy these cars with no test drive. That's right. To get a brand new Tesla in the United States, you cannot test drive it because you have to pay for the car in advance. Then they build the car. And I don't like that business structure as far as a car. Because think about this. If everything was mail order, like a car now with Tesla, and I'm going to use Tesla as the main crust of what we're talking about, but this, you know, this is going to cover a lot. Certain parts of this will cover all electric cars. But with Tesla specifically, you can't test drive them, okay? I'm not going to order underwear online or a pair of pants or a pair of shoes and wait on it to come in, and then all of a sudden I try them on and they don't fit right, or, you know, or they're right a little high or whatever. No. I'm going to go test drive my car because that's just like my 4th gen Camaro that I have. When I was looking at it, I was actually looking at buying a Mustang. The wife wanted a Mustang, so I was going to get one. We went and test drove them. None of them felt right. None of them. Then when we sat down in the 4th gen Camaro and test drove it, it said, take me. You know, it was actually talking to us. The performance, the way it felt, you know, when I sat in it, the visibility, everything fit me and fit the wife, and it just told us to take it. car buying should be personal like that, not just willy-nilly. Oh, I think I want black wheels, I think I want a red car, I think I want this, I think I want that, and then it comes. Well, when it comes, you can't change it. They built it specifically for you. In the case of the Tesla, now the Mustangs and stuff like that, you know, Ford has dealerships because of the way the government has the dealership network set up right now. They will have some on the lots. You can go try them out, and if they don't have exactly what you want, well, then you can order one spec'd out the way you want it. But at least they will have some on the lot that you can drive and see if you like. The Camaros will be the same way if they come out, just like the Volts, and like I said, some BMWs, some of the Mercedes, some of the Porsches are the same way. But number one reason is no test drives. Now, next up on the list is the infrastructure. Okay, right now I live on the East Coast, okay, North Carolina to be specific. On the East Coast, there is a lot of charging stations and infrastructure for charging your electric vehicles. And this is going to be the main thing. You know, Tesla is the leader right now of the electric car market. They're the ones that started this, per se, arguably. And they're the ones that's putting in the charging stations and the infrastructure for all this stuff. So naturally, it's going to be where you can go and use their charging stations, even if you don't own a Tesla. You know, you might have to have an adapter to make it work, but even if you don't own a Tesla, you will be able to use their equipment by paying, right? I mean, it works like that with, you know, all of today's technology. And that's what electric vehicles is mostly geared toward, is the, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I know I will, but the more geeky people, if you will, you know, the more people who are technologically inclined, you know, everything they like the house that where they could call and tell the temperature to go up a few degrees before they get home. They want the lights on. They want to be able to control everything from their smartphone or their computer or voice activated, you know. So that's mainly who really like the electric vehicles, but it will grow. I know it will, as people see the advantages, and there are many advantages to owning an electric vehicle. As a lot of them see, and the cost comes down and everything, then it will be more abundant and more people will want it. But the infrastructure on the East Coast right now is really not that good. From my house, if I had one and I didn't have a home charging station, I would need to go. There's two that's relatively close. One of them is 20 to 25 minutes away, and the other one, and I have to go down a major highway to get there and everything. The other one is 25 to 30 minutes, and I have to go into a major city to get to it and everything, and that just ain't gonna work. It just will not work. So the infrastructure right now as it stands is not set up for Camaro Time to own an electric vehicle. Now, you can have a home charging station, and you know, right now the average range is between 250 to 320 miles per charge depending on your car, okay? But in most cases, what most people don't realize about a home charging station is some of them are 120, and it takes forever for a 120 to charge. It really does. I mean, it could take a couple days for the thing to charge, you know. But with home charging stations, if you want a fast charge and all this good stuff, then you're going to need 220 volts, or really 240 volts. But everything is rated as 220. It's really 240, but it's rated as 220. So you're going to need a dedicated outlet, which means you're going to have an electrician. Unless you're an electrician, come out, check your meter box or your breaker box, your panel box, whatever, you know, whatever part of the country you live in, everything's called differently. You're going to need an electrician to come out and see if it can handle it. Worst case scenario, it can't. So then you're going to have to put in another meter box and all that stuff, and that's a very expensive proposition. But at the very best, you have enough power in your box left over to add a 240 volt outlet, a breaker, and he can run you a new wire to a dedicated outlet just for your charging station. It can't share with your home dryer or anything like that. It can't share. It has to be dedicated for that purpose only, which leads us to another problem. Now let's say you own a Tesla or electric vehicle, right? And you sit here and you're just planning on tomorrow going charging it off, or even if you have it at home, it doesn't matter. It's not charged and you were planning on charging it. Well, God forbid something happened, like in the case of California, the wildfires, okay? The wildfires come, power's out, they cut power for weeks on end to try to prevent more fires from popping up, and you couldn't charge your car. You do not have the opportunity to charge it at home. You have no power. And then that could have affected, and I don't know because I don't live in California, I haven't looked into it, that could have affected the supercharging stations, If they cut power to the town, then those charging stations aren't going to have it either, right? So you've got that. Then you've got the places where it snows a lot and you lose power, okay? Unless you have a generator that's set up to where you can plug it in and provide power for your charging station, you're screwed. You have no power to be able to go to work, to the grocery store, to the doctor, to pick up the kids, to drop the kids off, any of that stuff. So that's another thing you need to think about whenever you decide if you want to get an electric car or not. Backup power for when you need it. Now, while we're on charging stations and everything, let's consider this also. And like I said, all this stuff is evolving as I'm even doing the video. The companies are working hard to get better range out of their batteries and everything. But in really cold climates, right, where it's cold all the time, like up around the Great Lakes or even, Canada, places like that, where it is extremely cold, North Dakota, it gets really brutal out there. Even though your car is fully charged, in most cases, you're going to lose range. And it has been recorded with some high numbers, but on average, it's 20 to 30% of your range gone. Just gone because of cold weather. Because batteries do not do well in cold weather. So if you live somewhere where it's brutally cold or snows a lot and everything, it's another thing that you may want to think about. Because a lot of the energy that you're going to putting into the charge is actually lost, right? If you sit here and give it, if it takes 5 kilowatt hours to charge your car and you put out 5, well, when you get in, you might not have but 3. I mean, that's something to think about. And here's something else as long as we're on charging. A lot of people buy these cars because, number one, the government gives you a large incentive, like I think it's $7,500 to buy one. And then a smaller footprint on the environment, right? Smaller impact. Well, let's start with the second one first. The smaller impact or footprint on the world, if you will, is only in the places where you get your power from renewable sources. Right now, the last time I checked, still 78% of the country gets, 78%, and this is on the low side, according to all sources, gets their power from coal burning plants. So if you got to take your car and plug it into the wall outlet to get more power, which is also going to raise your power bill, right? Your power bill is going to go up, so there's more cost out of pocket there. And let's not forget the electrician, more cost there. You're really not, you're not saving anything. You're not helping the environment. You're not doing anything for it because you're getting your power from a coal burning plant. Now on the west coast and out toward the middle of the country where you have the wind and nuclear power and all that stuff, yes, I can understand it not really affecting you that much, but it can make your power bill go up because you're using it and because you're using coal burning supply power. The whole I'm buying this car because I'm going to be an environmentalist is out the window. And while we're on, I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but while we're on the home charging, on average, depending on what part of the country you live in, naturally California is more, the East Coast tends to be a little less, and in the middle of the country falls somewhere in between. But you're talking about 12 to 18 cents per kilowatt to charge your car. Now, like I said, in the lower portions of the state with a 45 kilowatts that you need and everything, it could be $5 to $7, right? But in the cars that take longer because of the bigger batteries, the bigger motors and everything that's in it, it could be as high as $30 to $40 to charge your car, depending on where you're at. Just keep that in mind. It's something to think about. Right in the back of your mind, because you get these cars thinking that it's going to be less to own it and all this stuff. In fact, it really ain't. And let's get to that right now. Cost on owning an electric vehicle, like I said, you get the $7,500 rebate from the government or tax credit. Not everybody applies for that. I mean, not everybody is qualified for that. Just because you apply for it and they say you can get it does not necessarily mean you're going to get it. So keep that in mind. But everybody keeps telling me about cost being so much cheaper to own an electric vehicle. And I just don't see it, because everything is computer controlled. Everything's computer operated, right? I mean, yes, it's got a minimalist look to it, because there's not a lot of buttons and controls and everything. Everything is controlled through the infotainment center, okay? But all that stuff is very, very expensive to fix. Now, how is the Ford Mach-E going to be and all that stuff, and the Mercedes and all that stuff? I don't know, but here's the problem with owning a Tesla. Tesla has very poor quality control. Most of the ones that you see on the road, you can look at, stand behind it or in front of it and look at it. This gap over here might be really close. This gap over here might be really wide. I've been in cars where you can sit in the driver's seat and look at the door jambs. That one over there, you can't see anything. The trim and everything's good and tight. You look at this one over here and you can see paint from the back side of the door, where the gap is so wide you can see into it. And the Teslas have, and you can look it up on YouTube, a lot of well-known people a lot of well-known channels that have Teslas have complained about rattles developing after 25,000 miles and grinding noises coming from their gearboxes and everything. And those things are not going to be cheap. I mean, take on average, when it's time to replace your battery, batteries are going to degrade over time. They're going to not be able to hold charge as good as they once were when they knew. When it becomes, it might, 25,000 miles, you might lose 2% charging. But over 5 years, that's 10% on average. So 10 years down the road, which you probably won't own that car that long anyway. People who buy these cars don't own them that long. We'll get back to that in a minute. But a battery, if you have an issue, can be somewhere between $5,400 and $15,000 to replace a battery, depending on what model you have, right? Let's just split it down the middle. $7,000 to replace a battery in one of these cars. And that's just the cost of the battery. That's not cost. That doesn't cover the cost of them completely tearing out the inside of your vehicle if it needs to go in that way, like some of the like the Toyotas and stuff. The Teslas and everything, they actually come out the bottom, which is a great design. So you need to keep that in mind also. These cars are not, everybody makes out like, oh, it's so, no. There's a lot of cost involved in owning an all-electric car. Don't be fooled by all the hype. Please do not be fooled by all the hype. Now, while we're on the reliability issues or the poor quality control, Tesla is known for having reliability issues. So much, in fact, that last year they had more warranty issues than Mercedes. Total, right? Tesla, as few cars as they make, right, has more warranty issues than Mercedes with as many cars as they make. Think about that for just 1 second. Just think about it. And I am not knocking Tesla. They make awesome vehicles. They really do. I am very impressed with the final product as far as the way it looks, the overall look, the interior materials and all that. It's not cheap looking vehicle. In other words, it's not a really cheap looking vehicle. But you got to take all these things into consideration when you're thinking about buying one. So, and like I said, the other cars, this is something else you will have to think about and consider. Like I said, do your walk-arounds and everything, but if you buy a car to where you can't take a test drive, how you going to check the fitment issues? You're stuck with it. So if I was going to buy one, it would definitely be a Ford, a Mercedes, a Chevy, something like that, to where I can walk onto the lot, see one, try it, and see if I'm into it. Now, we're almost to the end. I promise, we're almost to the end. But another thing you may want to consider is insurance. Before you purchase an electric vehicle, be sure to check on the insurance rates. Because right now, with the electric market really taking off with over the past couple years, insurance companies are having a hard time finding a balance, because most of the, let's go back to Tesla for one more thing. And I know it seems like I'm knocking Tesla, but Tesla is the leader out there right now. They have all the cars out there right now, and they're the ones that you really have to base everything off of, okay? If you have a problem or involved in a wreck, right, and your Tesla or your electric car needs repair, you can't just take it to the local mechanic down the street or the local body shop and they fix it. No, you have to take it to the dealership, or the dealership has to recommend a qualified, authorized repair shop, which means you're going to have to take your car somewhere and drop it off and leave it, and then that's the end of it until it comes back. Or it's going to cost the crap out of you taking it to the dealership. We all know how expensive dealerships can be. And then let's just talk about wrecks for just a second. Electric vehicles, when they're in wrecks, you know, you drive and accidentally get caught in a flash flood, what have you, you know, these things can cause your car not to work. Well, if you got electric windows, how are you going to get the window down? In the case of the Cybertruck, you know, it's got the armor glass. How are you going to get out of that? I'm sure there will be a way for you to pop that window out or what have you. They just haven't told us yet because, you know, they're not out. But once your electric vehicle is in a flood or in a wreck, it is very, very, very possible you're going to lose all power. How are you going to get the window down? How are you going to get the door open? How, you know, there's so much to think about and so many other reasons why you wouldn't want an all-electric vehicle. You know, it just keeps adding, and to some people, they don't care. Some people don't think about these things. But I do. And I try to put it out there so you don't go in blind. But yeah, wrecks and insurance companies, be sure to check, because that could be a very, very expensive deal breaker for you, right? All right, we are almost there. I got like 2 more things. And the next one is, with electric cars, everything being computer controlled, you know, they have the auto drive features now to where they can drive themselves. Some of them have this summon feature where you can sit there and push a button and it'll come and pull up to get you, which is all cool, but to me they're just gimmicks. All this stuff is just gimmicky. I want a car that I can get in and enjoy and drive from point A to point B. That's the reason I buy a car. I want to drive in it. If I wanted to ride in something, I'd just stand out of the corner and get on a city bus, right? But here is something else that you really need to think about. With all of this electronic, computer-controlled gadgetry and gizmos and everything, it requires something to operate it. Software, right? I mean, you got the main computer in the car, which operates everything in the car, but the computer needs something to tell it what to tell the door to open, to tell the radio to come on, all this cool stuff, right? So it needs software. And Tesla, the software upgrades are free. You know, it'll come in over, you can set it to where you can do it manually. You know, wait till 1 or 2 software updates are in there and tell it to do it, or you can have it set to do it automatically. Some people like to know what's going into the car, some people don't. It's totally up to you on how you want to do it. But I mentioned this in other videos before. The big, large infotainment centers that you have in today's modern cars require software to do that. In today's regular gas-powered cars, there's really no way to upgrade the software in it. You get what you get. The only way to upgrade it is to replace the infotainment center, okay? And that's kind of a bummer. But with the Teslas, and I'm sure with the all-electric cars, it's going to come in automatically and everything. But eventually, that hardware will not be capable to handle the new software. That's why after, 5-10 years, new programs, new gaming systems and everything that come out, new games that come out for your computers, your PCs, your laptops, all that stuff, you need to actually upgrade your computer because it cannot operate the software that is currently out there. Or try running the new software like Windows X on a Windows XP system. Nowhere near enough storage, nowhere near enough RAM, and the drives and stuff just cannot handle it. It does not work. So mainly what I'm trying to tell you is that owning a all-electric vehicle is a lifestyle change. Okay, if you're used to gas-powered cars, it is going to be a complete lifestyle change, because you constantly have to think about charging, right? If you don't have a charger at home, that means you've got to know where every available charging station is around your house. Then when you go on trips, you have to be very mindful and plot this out to where you will need to fill up at the next charging station. And this affects the way that you travel. Myself, whenever I go somewhere, typically I will stop one time, the wife and I, and go in and have us a dinner, about halfway, and that gives us a full belly and relaxes us for a while from the trip that we've already done, and prepares us for the trip the remaining part of the trip that we're fixing to do. That's one stop, right? Now, if I was going across country or something like that, I'm not going to stop every 300 miles and wait an hour and a half on my car to charge so that I can go another 300 miles. Gas stations are almost every exit. They're every other exit for sure on trips, right? And it only takes 5-10 minutes max to fill up a car. And I'm good for another, depending on what car I'm in, I'm good for another 350 to 450 miles. And that also depends on how I drive, as well as does the usage of your battery when you're driving an electric car. So, it's a complete lifestyle change. Now, with all the, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate about this, everybody's going to say I'm bashing, I'm a hater and all that. No, I am not. I promise you I am not. So let's get to the good. Now, I've just given you the reasons that I personally will not or never ever have an electric car. And I have one final one for the end. But let's talk about the positive things. Number one, the styling has come a long way. The Cybertruck just is not for me. There's nothing about the Cybertruck that I like. Nothing. Reminds me of a Moon Patrol car. If you've never played the Moon Patrol game, just think about I know you've all seen Back to the Future. Just think about a DeLorean 4-wheel drive, right? That's what you got. Pickup form. Nothing about that tickles my fancy. Now, with that said, electric vehicles, performance is great. Now, when they first started, you would have first, let me say, electric motors, when you mash that gas, all the power, all the torque is instant, right? Sets you back in the seat and you're gone. Now, if you were racing about half track, all that power, you'd be maxed out, you'd be going as fast as you're going to go. All the torque is done, fell to the wayside, and typically the gas powered cars will have done went by you. Today's modern electric vehicles are not the same way. They actually have passing power. They actually, the performance is not the same as it used to be. You still have the all-electric torque. You hit the gas, you're going. There's no, it's there. You don't have to wait for the transmission, the rear end, all that stuff to start spinning, it to build up to the RPM range for the max horsepower and torque. You don't have to wait on all that. It's all instantaneous. So the performance is very, very good. It really is. There's no way that a gas-powered car can compete with that instant torque. There's just no way. The design of today's modern electric cars have come so far over the first generations. They're actually starting to look really good. I mean, the Mustang Mach-E, forget it being a Mustang. Just forget about it being a Mustang. Let's just call it the Ford E for sake of arguments. The interior, from what I've seen in the videos, I have not seen one in person, looks really nice. I mean, I could ride in that thing for days on end. The outside of it has some really nice curves, really nice body lines and everything, and it doesn't look like the typical low pointed front end of an all-electric car. It actually looks like a regular car that you could drive daily. That the design qualities and features have come so far on these cars to where they actually are starting to look really good. And then you have the power. And I'm not knocking the designers or anything of the previous cars. they only had so much to work with, and I can understand that. These people put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of schooling, a lot of heart, to build these cars, to design these cars, and I give them true, full props for what they're doing. Again, it's just not for me. I am an old school guy to where if I'm going to buy a car, I want to drive that car, right? I want my hands on the steering wheel. I want my hands on the shifter, the radio, the heat controls, all that stuff. I don't want to push a button like I'm riding on the telephone. But the main and last reason is this right here. That's right, the good old sound. Yes, I know, they can pipe sound in through the speakers like the EcoBoost Mustangs are doing already, and the Audis and BMWs. They're piping the sounds in through the speakers and everything, and that just ain't for me. I love the sound of a V8. Just love it. I love the sound of any car over an electric car. There's no way that they will ever be able to make an electric car sound like a naturally aspirated car. And that's what I want. I want that sound. I want that connectivity with the car. I want the personalization. I can make a gas-powered car sound and run however I want it to run. And in mods to it, performance mods you can't do to the electric cars. But I could sit here, I can make my car look like anything I want to look. I could put different spoilers on it and all this stuff. Right now, electric cars, outside of colors and wraps and different wheels, that's about all you can do to it. But yeah, you can't beat that sound. There's no way electric vehicles will be able to replicate it. Now, with all this said, all this talking, and there is a market for it. I understand that. There's people out there that really like to be on top of technology. They're the ones that have to have the new iPhone every year when it comes out. They're the ones that want to spend the night standing in line in freezing rain and cold, waiting so they could be first in line to get the iPhone. I understand that. There's people out there that really like being able to control their house from the car. I understand that too. Personally, it's not for me. It's gimmicky. It's just more stuff that can fail. It gives the wrong type of people more opportunities to really mess you over. It really is. I mean, think about this. We didn't have all this hacking and people stealing identities and stuff when we didn't have the computers. The only thing we really had then was people stealing your checkbook, writing bad checks, and maybe trying to take over your identity in another state, with your name and everything. Outside of that, no. They couldn't hack into your computer and steal all your money. They couldn't get your money unless, number one, they stole your checkbook and wrote checks, or they robbed a bank. That was it. So for me, nah. I'm good with my good old gas-powered car. And with that, I'll leave you. Like I said, I understand there's a market. I understand there's people that want it. I'm just not one of them. So if that's what you want, more power to you. Get it and do like I say in every one of my videos. Get out there and enjoy them. That's what they're for. You're paying for them. Enjoy them. Doesn't matter if it's pedal power, foot power, electric power, gas power. Get out there and enjoy them. And thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.